So when it comes to accusations levied against Johnny Depp, there are many out there that no one has ever heard of. Why? Because when you start adding them into the mix, well, everything seems to fall apart. Essentially, the foundation of AEH's case rests upon 3 types of claims, and they make up 40 freaking pages of accusations. Not even kidding, 40 pages. Now, the first type, I'm sure you are keenly aware of by now. They've been echoed since 2016 by the media, by AH herself, and on. Now, the second type we just heard of in the last 6 months, and those, they may involve AH, but they also involve animals, particularly their 2 shared dogs. Now, the third type are something that we only recently started hearing about because they involve other people. I'm sure you heard about James Franco. I'm sure you heard about Leonardo DiCaprio, but also some of the other claims, she says, well, they involve stereotypes about other people. You know, ism. Now, you and I, we're going to cover some of those accusations. Note that some, we're not going to get into the detail of the incidents in a video, but we will get into some of that accusation with a witness statement of one AH. This is one of 7 witness statements given from Johnny Depp versus the Sun, and these will be included and probably added to, so always keep an eye out for what's in these when you have your upcoming trial in 2021. Again, a lot of people seem confused about that, so there is a trial coming up in the USA that directly involves AH, and that's what we're talking about these days. We're not talking about the Sun. We're talking about something that directly involves AH and all of the accusations therein. Now, because of the platform, I will summarize certain points as well. Don't hold that against me. That is a platform issue. But you notice right away we get our introduction. I'm an actor, I am a model, and I am an activist. The second part is basically letterhead that you always get with this kind of stuff. And the third part, well, it's introduction. From 2011 to 2016, I was in a relationship with Johnny Depp. We were married 2015. Divorce was finalized in 2017. She's not a party to this specific thing, but again, this is 40 pages of what she has to say. But she says, I should say that in 2019, Johnny sued me for defamation based on an article I wrote in an American newspaper. At the time of the signing of this statement, the U.S. case he brought against me is ongoing. We've had plenty of developments as this moved forward, but this, like I said, is basically summarizing everything that happened. Johnny has said that he has never been, we're going to use the words volatile toward me during a relationship. That's not true. He has basically run the gamut. She's saying everything there. Now this, it lays down the foundation of all claims that AH has levied, the Sun's defense and everything. Basically, there are 2 Johnny Depps. There's the Johnny Depp that everyone sees, the nice Johnny Depp, and on the other side, there's the quote-unquote monster. You know, the guy that has substance issues, and well, it really comes out during those times. Now, for the sake of documentation, they give a breakdown of physical versus verbal. They talk about everything that's supposed to be in there, and during that synopsis with Part 7, they say all of that, it contributed to a severe decline in my mental and physical health while I was with him. As I talk about in this statement, some incidents were so severe that I was afraid that he was going to end me. I'm going to use that word "end me," either intentionally or just by losing control and going too far. He explicitly threatened to do that several times, especially later in our relationship. Interestingly enough, we have tape after tape after tape, and well, none of that caught any of those statements, but hey. Now, like I said, the crux of every claim revolves around the monster, so I want to read this part to you. One thing that is important to know about Johnny at the onset is that he has a unique ability to use his charisma to convey a certain impression of reality. He is very good at manipulating people. With me, at least early in our relationship, he was able to express contrition after acts of, we're going to say volatility, but you can see the word there. He would blame all of his actions on a self-created third party instead of himself, which he often called the monster. Think about that statement too. They are saying a self-created third party, Dr. Jekyll versus Mr. S.A., or substance, well, you know the rest. He would speak about it as if it were as another person or personality and not him doing all of these things. I started to do so as well, referring to the monster, describe him during the worst periods of his, well, let's just say volatile behavior, especially the very volatile incidents that took place while he was, we'll call that, during SA. Now, to tell you how dumb the claims revolving around that word, too, they bring up the monster while Johnny Depp is in Tokyo. You know, the monster smashing buildings. What do you think a monster smashing buildings in Tokyo is reference to? Well, they said that, well, it's going to be this. I'm curious if that will also come out during the trial, because I'm sure that it will. So Johnny, well, he did these terrible things to me lots of times on many different occasions. I will address the incidents that I understand are particularly at issue in these proceedings to the best I can remember. Some of these events took place quite a few years ago and are extremely distressing, and recounting them is in itself very difficult and upsetting for me. There may be times where it's difficult to recall, these years later, the exact sequence within an event involving all of that stuff, some of which lasted hours or even days. This basically is a way out when you can't remember something, or the dates, they end up flying back in your face. Now, you'll notice that I skip forward, and that's because I'm skipping over how they met, and I'm going to something that involves that first portion, but it also involves the third portion, or talking about other people. Johnny's controlling and isolating behavior. Now, as a relationship progressed, I began to notice aspects of Johnny's increasingly controlling behavior. For example, I noticed that he didn't like me leaving for work. In part, I think this had to do with the fact that it meant I had to travel and was far away from him, which he didn't like. But I also noticed that he never really acknowledged my work as an actress and made demeaning comments about actresses generally. From the beginning, it was clear he didn't want me to take any job or be an actress at all. Now, with the accusations involving people, you have two types. You have the individual accusation, and then, well, you have the more stereotyped accusation. You have the individual here. You know, he accused me of having relations with these co-stars, movie after movie, she includes Eddie Redmayne. You have James Franco, Jim Sturgis, Kevin Costner, Liam Hemsworth, Billy Bob Thornton, Channing Tatum, and even female stars like Kelly Grammer. You also have Leonardo DiCaprio mentioned in there, and, well, there are many, many other people as well. Now, when she makes these claims, too, she talks about, the wording that he supposedly called them, and I believe that this is an attempt to isolate him. If you can make it hard for him to find work out there, well, you really, really got your revenge, didn't you? Now, I'm going to put a picture over this next part, but because it includes what I'm talking about here. It talks about how he's an ist and how it relates to, well, her. He would obsess about how I dressed. If I wore a low-cut dress, he would say things like, my girl is not going to dress like a, gardening implement, let's just say. Over time, I started wearing revealing dresses for red carpet events. Over time, indeed. It wasn't just worth the verbal and psychological issues, let's say. He demeaned me anytime I tried to wear anything that could be seen as sexy, calling me, again, a gardening tool, calling me a four-letter word that starts with S, ends with T, calling me fame-hungry, and calling me an attention, again, ardent implement, and it got worse over time. He started saying things like, well, I'm going to have to watch you get, I'm going to use the word arped there, and I hope you get railed by a bunch of bleeping fellows. Sometimes he used racial epithets about the men I would be or deserve to be accosted by, saying things like a slimy Mexican. That's actually in quotation, slimy Mexican. And this next part, this is actually in the document, so she's quoting here. I'm going to redact some of this, so take our time with it. A bleeping gang of big black, we'll say mother lovers, are going to bleep you and get their big bleeps in you. Now, the reason that I think that is included is because just like the individual claims, the social claims are also meant to do damage. And yeah, that is a claim that if you can make it stick would definitely do damage. Now, like I said, there are three types of claims that were represented. This is the second type that involve animals, and I believe the to animals were added because they don't have children and because it's damaging socially. We shared two small dogs at the time, Pistol and Boo. He took Boo and he held her out of the window of a moving car as some sort of joke or prank while he himself was howling like a dog. It was so bleeped up. I was scared that he could have dropped her, and I managed to lean across him and get her back in the window. I will never forget the way that everyone else in the car reacted. No one reacted. There was like a quiet alarm because no one wanted him to drop the dog, but no one reacted so as to not antagonize him, which might make him do something even crazier. Now, there are other claims that could be added to this, too. Like, for example, Southern gentleman is supposed to be code for a different type of ism. I mean, this stuff, it goes on and on and on. But it gives you an idea of what was said, what was related, and how many things just haven't been discovered, at least by the public yet. But anyway, you give me your ideas on this. Thank you for showing up and participating. I do appreciate you being there. You know, you make this stuff possible. It doesn't work without you. A lot of people forgot that too. But thank you. I appreciate that. Also, check out the links in the description if you want to help out the channel. We have our comic book there, for example. We could definitely use your help moving along as we work on it. And yeah, there's so much more. But anyway, thank you. Again, appreciate you, and I'll see you soon. And leave your comments, please.